Cedric Jones. I'm the Polaris of Alpha Alpha Omega Alumni Chapter Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated.
I'm Stephen Gross. I'm currently the Secretary of Alpha Alpha Omega Chapter of Iota Phi Theta. I'm also a board member with NAMI-Indiana. I actually am the public policy chairperson.
My name is James Cowley. I'm a brother of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated.
My name is Sean Donaldson. I'm a brother of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated. Also working in landscape.
Lavina Jones.
Martell Moore, Vice Polaris of Alpha Alpha Omega, Alumni Chapter, Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated.
I'm Beatrice Moore. I'm a child welfare specialist. I teach skills to kids on a daily basis dealing with mental health.
My name is Alicia Mafu. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in Indiana, and I'm also EMDR therapy trained.
Thank you all for taking time out today. Good evening to everyone who's on the live stream tonight. I'm Cedric Jones. I'm the Polaris of Alpha Alpha Omega Alumni Chapter Iota Phi Theta. And today we're partnering with NAMI-Indiana to discuss Sharing Hope, which is a program that they put together designed specifically to address and deal with Black mental health issues. In our community, I know that's one big thing that we often sweep under the rug, avoid, and don't talk about enough, but it's something good for us all to do. And today we got a bunch of family here, friends and family hanging out just to talk about the different issues that we deal with. So after watching the video, I guess the first question I want to throw out there to anyone who wants to jump in, what does mental health look like to you?
Mental health, it looks like something very sensitive that not a lot of people want to talk about, but it's very, very real and could happen to anyone at any time from any demographic.
Okay. Anybody else?
For me, it just looked like most of my life, just something you just kind of deal with and keep on going. Like, you don't talk about it, you just kind of keep going and keep going.
And keep it pushing, right?
Growing up, it was hidden. Like, no one talked about it, no one addressed it, no one helped somebody that was dealing with it. Like, I've dealt with it since I was a little kid, and in my family, no one talked about it. No one talked about the dark times that I had, or the times I wanted to kill myself or cut or any of those things. Cutting back then was, something no one talked about, but now like all the kids are doing it, and we need to address it and help them deal with it, and so they don't have to go through the same battles and traumatic things that I went through in life.
That's heavy right there too, and I think that with what you just did there too, we're so good at trying to put on that brave face and hide everything that we never get to the solution of what's going on. Anybody else? I don't want to monopolize or take over anything. I mean, what do you all think?
No, I agree, and I think that's especially the case in our community, right? Because we always told, suck it up, deal with it, don't show your emotions. People take advantage of you, don't be vulnerable. And then we go through life and trying to figure out ways to just keep it going, keep pushing, keep making it to the next day, try to get through this day. But then you carry around a lot of stuff that you just don't know what to do with it. And it gets heavy, it gets hard, and it's something that we all kind of dealing with, like I said, but we don't know how to not only share that, but then support each other through that, because I'm so busy dealing with my own stuff, I don't have time to help you with your stuff. But I don't even know what your stuff is because we don't talk about it, right? Like, and we don't create opportunities to support each other because we don't talk about it, because we have to carry it around, because we got to keep pushing through. And that just makes things so much heavier.
But see, I was different. I was always helping everybody else with their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's always come to me, and if they have an issue or if they have a struggle or whatever, they always come to me for a solution. So I was always helping somebody. No one ever reached out to me and said, but what about you? What are you dealing with? What do your dark days look like? And like, I've always been that strong friend, and I've never had that strong friend be there for me. Even when I have a strong friend, I'm still there for that strong friend. So in my adult life, I had to figure out, once I went through my first divorce and I actually got help and went to a therapist, that I needed to have somebody there for me. So if it wasn't, I couldn't have a family or friend be there for me because I couldn't be that vulnerable with them. So I had to go someone outside of them to be vulnerable, to be able to come back to my family and let them know what I was really dealing with. Because not until I was in college did people really know how many times I tried to kill myself or how many times I cut. My mom would be like, oh, well, you can't have this because what's going on? Oh, nothing. I just accidentally cut my legs. I never cut on places that people would see. I cut where no one would see, except for my mama. So I was everything I dealt with was internally and no one could see it. So I didn't want no one to. But I want to be here for you. How can I help you? And I've been helping people since I was a freshman in college, mentoring them on how not to cut, on how to deal with their issues or use coping skills and all those other things that no one then turned around on me.
And see, that's kind of earlier when we were talking about the training that the facilitation training we went through. To your point, we were always taught to hide it because going back as a community for Black people, going back historically, like all the way back to when we were enslaved in the country, like if you show weakness, that's going to be targeted. You know, we had to be strong because if I don't push through the situation I'm dealing with, then the rest of my family's going to struggle too. Or, you know, I've got to be strong because if I'm weak, then this person's going to suffer. And I think that a lot of times we get to the point where we're so set on being strong. Like, and I know personally myself, like me, I always crack the joke that I have two emotions. I'm either happy, maybe three. I'm happy, I'm quiet, which is rare, or I'm angry. Like there is no in between. You're not gonna see me. I mean, I can count on my hands the time I've actually when I've cried. And for me, it's like it's always where it hits that boiling point. But to your point, you know, it goes back to having a community of people that you can lean on. So, but with that thought in mind, I mean, how do we learn to lean on each other? I mean,
it's kind of hard to lean on people sometimes because when you try and talk to people, they, like you guys said, just suck it up or just get over it. But it's just, how do you get over it? And sometimes the way people sometimes, I don't know if you guys ever heard that phrase, to laugh to keep from crying.
mm-hmm.
All right, look at social media sometimes. People go on social media and they spew out toxicity or just anger or sadness or just goofiness. And sometimes people be commenting, just laughing about it. I mean, look at certain celebrities where they just be saying off the wall things. They're not just laughing, they're in a way crying for help in a happy way.
What I had to do was, you know, we have our core group of friends, but you have to find people who's going to pull you up. Because normally we are always the one pulling people up in our friend group or whatever, but you got to have somebody who's going to pull you up. So I had to look outside of my friend group. I love my friend group. My friend group will be there for me. But sometimes you have to find that person that you really can give to, and they won't judge you. They won't talk about you or anything like that. And they can kind of look at you and see that look in your eye and be like, we're not dealing with this. What's going on right now, right here? So, and then that person became one of my closest friends because she can call me on all of my stuff. But before her, I wouldn't open up to even like my closest friends, my best friends. Like they still don't know what I'm dealing with. I can talk to you on the phone and you would never know. So you got to find that person who's going to hit them buttons and allow yourself to fully let go. We can't, as a community, cannot keep holding on to it, because the more we hold on to it, we're doing that damage to ourselves and our kids, because we're not teaching them anything. If we can't deal with our issues, how are we going to teach our kids to deal with their issues? And what they're going through in school right now, and daily I talk to kids who are dealing with 10 times worse than what we did and having to go through COVID. We can't help them if we're not helping ourselves. And at the point when we let go and truly deal with every hurt and issue that you had since childhood and begin to pour into your kids and your kids' friends, because their parents may not know how to do it, but you can't help them if you ain't helping yourself.
And I think that's part of the problem too, because you know you're going through something, but you don't want, but that your person might be going through something too. It's like, I don't want to put that on them either. So it's a cycle.
But we holding ourselves back. Your person may be going through. So this is what I was always going through, but I was always able to help you. And sometimes God will put somebody in your life to be that person for you. And we can't think about, oh, well, they might be going through, because I would do that all the time. I would call her up and be like, hey, girl, what's going on? And she would start talking. I'd be like, but look, I really need to talk to them. Mm-hmm. And she'd be like, all right, what we talking about? What we dealing with? Who we got to get or who we got to not get? So, like, she knows if like the other day I sent her a text, emotionally, I ain't here. I don't want to talk about it, but you know what to do. And I ain't have to tell her nothing. 2 days later, you good? I'm good. But we have to step out of our own ways and stop thinking about what is she doing with her? What is he doing with her? What is my husband doing with her? We have to get it out.
But a lot of times our person gotta be, so people, I can't give somebody something that I don't have. So I think that's the big problem with our community. Like,
that's kind of,
it's like, I can't, like my mama love her to death, but she done been married 11 times, so was my daddy. So when I started having marital problems, I'm like, I got to do, this is bigger than them, because clearly they ain't figured it out themselves. But that's what we do. We go to auntie and this and that, but like, that's why we got to involve professionals, and that's okay. Because like, us not dealing with it, we dealing with it in other ways, with the drinking, with the gambling, with the sex, with the eating. And then, but we'll talk about that stuff. We'll get together on Thanksgiving and we'll take shots until we pass out. But we ain't talking about the reason why we're drinking to that extent.
Yep. And see, I think to your point, it comes to one of my favorite people in the world. Always say, call a thing a thing. And I think that's something that we have a big problem in our community, is that we don't get down to the root cause. Like, we won't admit, like, listen, I'm dealing with something. I mean, to your point, like I already said, I'm really, I bury my emotions. Like, it's just the way I've always been. And, there's this thing called shadow work where you have to start to dig into the whys. Like, okay, I'm feeling depressed. Why? Okay, I'm depressed because, I'm dealing with stress at work. Okay, why is this stuff stressing you out? Because I feel like if I don't get it addressed, then I'm gonna fail at work. Well, why do you feel? And
it's all connected.
It's all connected.
But what are you teaching your boys if I'm closed in? Because mama can only do so much, but the man teaching them what? Yep, it's true. That's true. And I noticed for me personally, I'm trying to teach my sons to not necessarily, you don't bury emotions, you got to manage it. You have to know when you can open up to other people. And it's crazy because, like, my two boys are night and day. Like, my youngest son is locked in, focused. He's ice cold. My oldest, when he gets worked up, it's a whole different level. He gets fired up. But the good thing I can say right now is with my two boys, our relationship is open and honest. Like, my oldest son has had conversations with me, like, me and him are best friends. And, and again, to the point you made earlier, that's how we got to start breaking those generational curses too. Because as a parent, my only goal, if this is where I'm at, I want my kids to get just be a little bit better than me. That's it. But again, until we start addressing those things, to your point, until you start, all right, so listen, this is how I deal with X, Y, Z, then we're going to stay stuck.
Regarding my kids, and as far as addressing them, being able to be open, I agree with you. That's what I'm trying to do with my kids, to have that open open conversation with them, where they're able to come to me, no matter how angry or sad or what they're able to talk to me. That's I'm trying to build that, because I didn't have that with my parents. Yep. I didn't have that relationship where like I see some other people, they can go to their parents about anything. Me, it was like, talk to you about what? That was weird.
Barely holding it together. I can't help you.
So it was like, a lot of stuff that I dealt with in, middle, high school, whatever. I just kind of kept it to myself, even growing up. So I've gotten good at keeping it to myself. But, I'm kind of at a point now where I am now, I do now see a therapist regarding, and I'm talking to them about everything. So,
yeah.
Right.
So because I know that all this history has built up inside
all
me.
connected.
And I don't want my children to experience that. So I'm trying to keep that our relationship to where they can come to me about anything and talk to me about anything, so that we can, address any issue that they may have. As I'm growing through my therapy and learning how to deal with things, I'm hoping that I can be able to pass that on to them. So.
Yeah, and I think that's really important too. And as we talk about it, being able to really name those emotions and call it what it is, and be able to understand, ask yourself those questions. Where's this coming from? Why did my day go like this? How's it starting? How's it continue to feed? Because that's really important. Because even a lot of times, I heard several of you guys talk about, like, we got these feelings and I know how I feel, but I don't know how to name it. I don't know what to call it. So I'm just not gonna deal with that because I don't even know what it is. Or that anger builds up and we don't address the root cause. And so it seemed like I'm angry at this. I'm not even really angry at this. I'm snapping off on this. This is what I'm dealing with right now. But this really happened yesterday, last week, or something I'm still carrying from a past relationship, or something my mama said to me 20 years ago, or something my daddy didn't do 30 years ago. And I think that's really important as we name it, so that when we have these conversations with our kids and our family members, our friends, and we're challenging people, we can say, you know what, that, you present as angry, but you sound really sad.
Right,
Like,
because anger is a secondary emotion. So my kids, they already know, I'm mad. Nope.
Yep.
It's something deeper than that. Anger is a secondary emotion. So it's something else going on, but you got to take the time to figure it out. Absolutely. And that's what we finna do.
So with my middle child, he's been having some issues with school. So we do have him with a therapist to kind of work out those type of things. He's having some outbursts at school, or at least he was. And I think the therapist helped him to kind of identify that and be able to understand what he's feeling in the moment, to be able to counteract that, or to be able to grasp some control over it, because he's 7.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And this may seem really random and not connected, but it is. But I think back, one of the hardest conversations I had with she's 11 now, but in 2020, when they was having, they was setting the city on fire. Literally. Yeah. So, everybody glued to the TV watching the news right there. And I think it was LA, maybe, I don't know where it was. But the city was literally on fire. So she come by and she watched the TV like, what are they doing? What's going on? Why is the city on fire? I'm like, dang, I gotta explain this to her. Like, this is stuff that we've seen in the books, right? Like, oh, okay, that was the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We well beyond that. But then you turn on the TV, you're like, that looked like the riot of '64. Right. That looked like what? That's happening down the street and around the corner. So I brought that situation up because, like, with the kids and they're having these outbursts, some of this stuff is living in our bones generationally, right? Like my parents and my grandparents and their parents was fighting stuff and anger and all these emotions that we don't deal with, but we pass that along. Yes. We teach our kids, oh no, you just suck that up and you do this and you do that. But they carrying around hurt and pains and stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff goes back, and you see people popping off on the littlest things. It's like, why are you so angry? Half the time, we don't even know why we so angry. But I know if you step on my shoes, I know we got a whole problem, right? That came all the way from, I ain't even really mad at you, but the fact that I ain't had nothing and I finally got something that my mama didn't have, and they wanted, me to be better than them, and we want that for our kids. So I think you said it earlier, but I think that's really important with the emotional well-being, right? Like, we want our kids to be better and to have more, but that's not always stuff. That's not physical stuff, right? Like, I want my kids to be able to have those conversations, to be able to come to me and have a conversation that I didn't always have with my parents or my aunties and uncle or my grandparents, because I didn't know what to say. They didn't encourage me to do it because they don't know what to say in response. Like, oh, just suck that up, bro. That's what we do around here in the hood. We just keep it pushing. But that didn't really help me. So I think as we continue to pour off into our kids and their friends and all of them, that we really name those things, and we encourage them to open it up, and we put names to it so that they can really know. Like, my daughter does gymnastics. She got this little feeling, and I said, no, that's nerves. That's nervousness. But all anxiety ain't bad anxiety. Right. That's good energy. That needs to make you focus now. Right. Let's deal with that. Okay, good. You got these butterflies in your stomach. That's great. Now, then we go through her routine, and so she actually knows what to do with that anxiety or that nervous energy instead of just letting it consume her. And then she go out and have a bad knee. I mean, we seen it with Simone Biles, right? Like her mental health gap. She's at the top of her game at the Olympics. That's like the pinnacle. And she didn't know what to do with all of that energy, and then she couldn't perform. And we saying that we don't want that for our kids and their friends and our loved ones, but we got to be able to do something with everything that's going on inside.
Yeah, and I think that, to your point, I think the biggest thing was for me personally, it was always that fear. Because that's what that I'm trying to make sure to do with my kids, that you don't have to be afraid to come talk to. And that dealt with me also dealing with a lot of my personal fears. Like for me, I always make the joke, the only thing I'm afraid of is failure. But then again, what does failure look like? Like it's failure, on a personal level, like I'm determined to make things work and happen because any other thing else short of that is failure. But going back to the fear point, it's like, with my boys, I want them to be able, the conversation that my oldest son has had with me and my wife is like stuff that I would have never told my parents. Like, period. Because I was afraid that if this happened, all right, hey, Mom, I did X, Y, Z. All right, instantly, for me, it's going to be punishment after that. And even, I guess that's probably also goes even to our day-to-day lives of the reason why we do things we do, because punishment may not be getting ground up or a whooping, but punishment could be losing something that you value. So I think, for me, the way to fix Black mental health fix mental health in our community is to start on that, like I said, a generational level. Because if we can get our kids to be just a little bit better than we are right now, then they'll be better for it. So if nothing else, if we can get our kids to get past the fear of talking to us about what's going on, that goes to us getting past the fear of talking to each other about what's going on.
Right, and we do have to open up and project our emotions because it's kind of like a build-up. And like you said with the 2020 incidents, it was just like a build-up from everybody being locked up, and it was so consuming that it just like came out, and it's just the smallest thing that somebody can do to you just garnishes the biggest reaction. It's just like once it's been held in so much, you just can't control it.
And see, with 2022, you got to realize, with 2020, a lot of that came from the fact that we're locked up.
Right.
And people, y'all got us locked up, and people are still dying.
Right.
And that's all we were seeing. And to that point, that's traumatic because it gets to the point where I'm worried about not just myself, but when my kids go out. Like my son told me how there was an incident at his school where my son was profiled. And I'm like, wait, so they brought you down to the office and did this and that because your allergies are acting up and your eyes were red? My son told me how him and his friends were in the neighborhood and one of the women called the police on him. And instead of them dealing with the police officers, they decided to take off running. I'm like, nah, you don't never run because then you look guilty. But, getting to the point where we start getting our children to where they need to be, where they can open up and deal with this stuff. Because at 44, my generation didn't talk about it. Like you said, we ate that. You bury that. You go out and you drink it away, you smoke it away, you sex it away, whatever you got to do to get over it. But again, until you can call it what it is, until you can call it depression, and not I feel bad that someone will go over here and drink, a case of beer, we can't deal with it. So
that's pretty interesting because even that's a change in the narrative, right? Like you saying, oh, when you see the police, you stand there and you talk to them because you don't look guilty. Back in the day, bro, you see that red light and that blue light, you break, bro. I'm getting up out of here. Because I'm not finna be trying to be dealing with, they ain't trying to listen to nothing I gotta say. I'm not trying to be caught in that situation. Like, I'm gonna take my chances running and hoping that I get away. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do. What I'm saying is that's a change in the narrative, right? Like you talk about the fear. It's so interesting, we talk about fear, but you can't be successful unless you lose, right? Like, you don't know what success is until you fail. Like the lessons are in the mistakes, but that comes with conversation, that comes with teaching, right? Like instead of just getting a whooping and doing something because I say it, so like that don't really teach me anything. It don't teach me what to do or what not to do. It teach me I can't have it right now or I got in trouble right now. But it's that conversation, right? That talking about the fear, talking about like what all this is, why is it more beneficial to stand and have that conversation and not look guilty? Those are the things that we got to explain to like break those generational curses, because if not, then we just perpetuate the cycle. And the next generation don't know what to do. I don't know why we run, but I know when I see red and blue, I know I hit the cut. I'm out of here.
And that's something that's like hardwired.
Yeah,
right?
for
That's
real.
what it. So I'm a trauma-based therapist. I have a certification, and so I can say I'm a trauma therapist. Like, we're hardwired in a lot of ways. And then I want to go back to something you said earlier when you talked about generations and all of that. Like, a woman is born with all the eggs she'll ever have.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that pain and stuff that she had, boop, now she got a baby, boop.
Yep.
It ain't. So when I work with little kids. So when I get a 3-year-old that's flipping off and doing all of this stuff, and the mom is saying all of this stuff, I'm like, well, this is deeper than this.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to get them to connect the dots. And then the other thing is, like, we have to be in a place where we're healed enough to where our kids can trust us. Because I know one of the things that I hear a lot, and I work with all ages, men, women, kids, is that I can't go to my wife or I can't go to my mama because she can't handle it, but I know you can.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're always falling apart and irritable and stressed out and all of this stuff, our kids are not going to trust. You're not a safe person in that aspect in regard to their mental health.
And
So,
they
like,
see how we dealing
right,
with it and
they
not
see
dealing
it.
with it, right? Like, so
Because we're their first
if
teachers.
you over there, breaking down and okay, well,
Hitting
this is
walls,
how you handle
punching
stuff.
walls.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
really? So instead of just talking about your bad day, you
Well,
punching
I wanted
walls.
to say as well, and, we can sit here and talk about helping the generation all we want, but if we can't get ourselves together,
Right.
there's nothing that we can do for them.
So I got a question for everybody, right?
Yep.
So the first question that came up on the screen, how do you heal? So that's what we have to, over these next few weeks before we come back together, really think about, how am I going to heal myself? Because you can help your kids, you can help your boys, but if you're not helping yourself, like I said, you're not good for anybody else. How do I totally heal? Yeah, depression is going to come back, but it's not going to come back as strong as it did before. Because before, depression almost took me out this world. I tried to kill myself, tried to walk out in front of cars and took pills, then did all these things. But depression can't show up that way no more.
Right.
It may come, was it yesterday or the day before I texted you and said, emotionally I ain't good. But emotionally couldn't keep me there all night.
Right.
I'm in that moment right now. But I'm not going to allow it to continue on for days.
Right.
Like before, it would overtake my whole life. And internally, I was dealing with those things. But what are you doing to help heal yourself? What self-care are you doing for yourself? Not you and your wife going out on dinner. That's not self-care. What are you doing for yourself? Once a month, I get my massage. Haven't been able to get it in the last 2 months. I feel like my self-care is off. My neck is tight. I'm tense.
Man.
But, your husband
But
give
you
you
know
a
that, man,
massage,
like,
but
you
I can
recognize
go
that.
out and I don't have to think about nothing. Your husband giving you a massage woman that leads to something. If I'm going to get a massage, it ain't got to lead to nothing. Because when I left there, I left all that tension there, and then I can go on about my day. So what are you doing for yourself? What self-care are you doing for yourself? Outside of, I know my husband, he'll go once a week, go get that line up, all that other stuff. What are
It's
you
deeper
doing?
than that. I said that the other day. I said, this nails and stuff, I got to figure it.
You gotta find,
I
but
gotta
not
get
once
back
you've
to
done
massages.
this
The
for
nails
so
ain't
long.
enough.
Like I've been getting a
Right.
massage over 2 years. You gotta find something else
Right.
because that becomes a routine. So
Right.
you gotta throw your routine off to do something for yourself. And when you get them dark thoughts or you get them feelings of heaviness or anxiety, what are you doing to combat that? What coping skills? If you ain't learned coping skills, please go out. Look, it's 101 coping skills. Look on Google. There's different things. Oh, no, that won't work for me. But try them all out. Because I had to look at all 101. I couldn't teach my kids at work, these are 101, we're going to go through this, without me going through it first. And then I take those little ones, okay, it's working right now. Then switch it up.
Yeah, and kids will call you out.
Right,
Baby,
I'm
you
trying
think
to
you
figure out
tough, ain't
how
working
many of
kids.
the 101 methods I use. For me personally, I say just get rid of certain people. If there's like certain people that will tell you negative things or put you down, those are some of the people you need to leave because that will definitely weigh you down. Another thing, change of environment, because if you're around an environment that's like kind of bad, you might want to take yourself out of there. And another thing, I know when I used to get depressed, I would watch like very depressing movies. In fact, it didn't help my depression, it kind of made it worse.
Yeah.
And especially like music, like The simple things like changing music, movies, media, that could help.
Yeah. And see, it's funny you mention that because one thing for me that I've promised myself next year is like I'm gonna start. Oh God, I can't remember exactly how I say it, but I'm gonna start telling people, you know, I was let you start, you know, exactly where you got me messed up. Because it's like, there was a moment this morning, like, you know, I like my social media and I walk a different path personally, spiritually. And somebody commented on my thing, talking about trying to do something else. And for a second, I was just going to skip over. I was going to ignore it. And then I thought like, no, I'm not doing this no more because what I'm starting to learn is that like, I'm not going to, me not addressing the situation, like you said, me not addressing the situation is just going to prolong it even longer. Because now I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about it. Where instead of telling you where you can go and being done with it, it's not going to eat at me anymore.
Right.
And I think that until, you know, like I said, call a thing. I'm not claiming this disease in my body, baby. You sick. If you don't deal with it, you can't fix it. So, I mean. Yeah, how do you heal? First and foremost is saying I don't feel good today. Why? Like last week I was anxious and I could not figure out why I was so anxious and stressed out. Like I had no idea what was going on. And I don't think I ever figured out what the cause was. It might have been Friday. It probably was Friday. I'm ready to get off work. I'm ready to go home. I'm ready for the weekend. And it's like my phone for work is going off and my attention just goes up. But that's when I get to the point where when I ask myself and answer the question, like, what else can you do about it? I can only do what I can do.
So, there's something you commented. One, I appreciate you for being just so vulnerable and sharing that. You had said like about being that strong friend and like what are we doing for self-care? Because I think we can sometimes use that as a defense mechanism to not deal with ourselves. Like, oh, I gotta go deal with my kids right now. I gotta help my best friend. I gotta do this, and you gotta check in with yourself. Like, you can't keep pouring out into everybody else and don't pour into yourself. You ain't gonna have anything to pour. So,
yeah,
that's a trauma response. You said defense mechanism. I automatically thought trauma response. But yeah, definitely for sure.
And then another thing she talked about on the video, forgiveness. Forgiving ourselves, and not just forgiving ourselves. Probably back 10, 11 years ago, every person who ever did me wrong, I had to call them and tell them, I forgive you. Because they no longer could have that stronghold on my life anymore. Because from the people who I trusted, the people who I loved and adored as a kid, you did me wrong. But I didn't go to them and read out the list of things that they did. I didn't even give them a time to respond. The one person I called and I had to call him and let him know I forgive him was my ex-stepdad. And the things that he did to me, and I'm supposed to be able to trust you and all this other stuff. I called him. Mind you, he's been blocked on social media. He's been blocked in my phone for over 20 years. So therefore, I unblocked you. I called you. Hey, this is B. You can lose my number after this, but I forgive you. I don't need no explanation. I don't care what demons you were dealing with. I forgive you. We never have to speak again. If you see me, we don't have to speak. But I forgive you. You don't have a strong hold on my life anymore. You have a blessed day. And hung up the phone. Instantly blocked. And instantly, that weight that I carried for all of these years, that my mama couldn't help me with, my cousin couldn't help me with, it was lifted because I forgave them. And then I had to, after I wrote down a whole list of people. And after I forgave them, I had to forgive myself. I had to internally look at all the things that I piled on myself and held in and didn't deal with and had to let it go and forgive myself. So please forgive yourself and forgive others.
And see, that reminds me of this song lyric I heard about you giving life to a dead situation. So, that's heavy. But anybody else, how do you heal? I mean,
kind of like what she's choosing. Kind of like what she said. Like, so for me, I come from a a family with a lot of trauma and a lot of secrets. So I learned from an early age to eat as a way to cope because it was cheap and it was easy, and that's what I saw. So for me, when I was like, I think it was my brother when he got killed. I think that was the tip of the iceberg. I'm like, I can't take nothing else and something got to change. So at that point, I was married. I'm like, look, you in or you out, because I'm choosing me. And whatever that looks like I told my family, like, I don't know what this process is going to look like. Baby, it was ugly. Ugly. A lot of nights where I was like, I don't know. Baby.
When you start going on that journey,
It ain't
everybody can't come with you.
Everybody can't come with you.
Even your family and your friends, they can't come with you. Because when I started forgiving and letting go, they wanted to keep bringing up. Oh, you remember? Nah, my baby. She set free and delivered from that. You can't come with me. I still love you. I'm still there for you.
Right. You still hurting me. You ain't learning to forgive and move on. Now, what you doing to look good, and I want some of that, but I don't know how to get there. So I need to
pull you back down. Yep. But what you ain't gonna do? Because I'm free from that.
And once you start that process, I mean, it's ugly and it hurts, but like once you start it, you start looking different and feeling, because that's what my friends started noticing. Like, because I like Facebook, so I post a lot of pictures. I'm like, something is different. So my close circle, they knew what was going on in the turmoil that I was dealing with. But even outside people started like, you moving different, like something's different, you know. So you start, it's just different once you start going on that journey, and it's a lot of, it's not easy and it's not quick. So like if you would have saw me years ago, it was different. But now I'm at the other side of it. So so definitely forgiving myself grace and just like forgiving myself because I held on to a lot of stuff. Like it wasn't my fault. I was a kid when all this stuff was happening. My parents, even a part of my healing had to be with forgiving them, because I'm like, they both come from trauma. So my mom did the best she could. So baby, it's a whole lot of undoing, a whole lot of layers, and a whole lot of steps. But like you worked it. So I'm a big affirmations person. Like my tattoo right here, tighten up. My brother used to say it all the time. But so telling myself positive things every day, because it would be days like imposter syndrome is something that I like really struggle with. And I've been a social worker for 15 years, so I looked different 15 years ago. So it was a lot of people having to prove myself. So I kind of, that's how I always been. But once I started healing, I had that. Even that went away. I'm like, baby, at this stage, I don't even care. I am who I am. I'm showing up as who I am, and you either in or out.
And see, you get into deep with imposter syndrome, because for me, I've dealt with that, because like people always tell you, you're doing great, you're doing good, like man, you're so successful, and the whole time you're looking like you're scared as you feel like a fake the whole time.
Yeah, you barely trying to make it. Like
exactly. Like if y'all only knew how my head is working, how I'm this close to cussing everybody out or feeling my gas take up and just driving and going and shutting up. I mean,
or you the only one in maybe not your social circle, but maybe from your family that's at that level. So then you start feeling like, dang, should I be here? Do I deserve to be here? Am I doing enough if I'm giving back? So it's that imposter syndrome, but the survivor's remorse is the word I was thinking about, right? Like, okay, I'm doing good and I'm out here working hard and I'm busting my tail and stuff like that. But then I look at the people around me, particularly my family, my people, and it's like, man, it's really hard. You want to do for everybody else. Kind of go back to your original point. I want to do for everybody else. I want to pour out. I want to help. I want to give all the resources that I can. But then I'm giving away so much, and there ain't enough there to take care of me. And I'm still dealing with the fact that I don't even really feel like I belong here.
Right.
So my folks on the back, what y'all think?
Well, I think I'm learning still how to deal with everything I'm going through. Huge thing for me, and I know I distracted myself from what I'm trying to, what I should be addressing. I'm not. I'm just trying to still push it to the side because I still don't know. And like, I know what hurts me and I know what I feel like I should do. And it's not that easy for me to do it. So I don't know what to do. So I'm still learning how to just move with it.
So what I was gonna say to that point is how do you heal? as V is doing right now, the first thing to do is admit it. You have to recognize that something's wrong. You can't always say, ain't nothing wrong with me, I don't need to go to therapy, it's you, or, you don't have, you can't do that. You have to deal with what's going on internally and accept it and then deal with it.
Right. Some days when I say, hey, how to heal, I say, is the way I'm trying to heal right or is it wrong? Some days I'll say, you know what, just erase my entire past and create a whole new legacy, let go of 90% of the people I had back in the day and everything I got now, make that my new history. I don't know, that's like the best way I do it, because some days I don't feel like, hey, I don't got much to look back on because it just wasn't really worth it. So some days I say, it's right, or some days it's wrong. I don't know.
See, I don't think there is a right or a wrong way to heal.
Right.
I mean, as long as you aren't making yourself worse, as long as you aren't harming yourself, there is no wrong way to heal. And even at that point, sometimes, as long as you're not ending your existence, as long as you're giving yourself a chance to get better the next day. I mean, it sounds crazy, but even for the alcoholics, the drug addicts, and everybody else, you know what? I can't deal with it right now. I'm going to cope with it by drinking a fifth or whatever. That's not the best way to do it, but can you wake up the next morning and look back and realize, like, I should have did that. That's not the way to get it right. I mean, healing I think it looks different in so many different ways.
I remember when on Facebook you posted, when you started this journey of healing. And we met at our previous job.
It was terrible.
Horrible. But I would go in her office, I'd talk to her or whatever. But she posted on Facebook what she was dealing with and how she was healing. And I just went in her inbox to message her and, was just encouraging her. And we didn't really talk that much after she left the job, and I stayed there another 4 years. That was mentally draining in itself. But I feel like in that breaking point of me reaching out and then actually telling her, some of the things that I had went through, it was able to help her. And then we didn't talk again. And then now we're back together and able to, be there for each other. So it's just finding those people who, they may not look like the person who's supposed to help you, but finding that person that, one day when you just open up and talk and they actually sit there and it's gaze into the conversation, and it's about you. And they don't throw in about, oh, well, this is what I was going through, or cut you off or whatever, but they're really there listening and engaged and helping you heal. Find those people.
And it's, and it's not a race. It's not, something to compare, right? Everybody's journey is different. We all gonna go through bumps in the road. I mean, that's life, right? It's going to happen, but a lot of that is anticipating that it's going to happen. You use the example of someone who's dealing with alcoholism, right? Relapse is a part of the treatment. We have to, if you don't anticipate it, then when it happens, it's going to catch you off guard, and you're going to feel like all is lost again, and I can't dig myself back out of this hole. And just reminding yourself at that point, look, I've been successful. I can do this again. Yeah, I hit a bump in the road. Yeah, it brings me down. But those affirmations and no, I can do this again. I find the support of people that can help me out. And so, not comparing. So I don't look at you and go, oh man, he's doing much better than I am. Oh, I wish I was to where he's at, because I don't know your journey. I don't know what you're dealing with. And so it can be really depressive for me or bring me down if I compare myself. And that's not something that we want to do on our healing journey, right? We can't compare apples to oranges. Your process is your process. We open up, we find those supportive people, and we anticipate that there's going to be bad days, the times where that depression is going to come back, and today is going to really kick my butt, but I've been through it and I know how to handle it, and I'm better off for it. Because if I've never failed, if I've never had a bump in the road, I wouldn't know how to get over it.
To me, that's the best advice you can give somebody, but that's one of the most broken rules, comparing yourself to others. Because I know with me, I've been told that numerous times, but I still do it because you always want to be the best you, but when you see somebody doing better than you, it's I don't feel like the best me.
So they don't know who to attribute this quote to, but the quote that you reminded me of was called. It says that comparison is the thief of joy.
I got that in my office.
And there's actually when I was trying to get do this whole financial repair journey thing. I can't remember the name of the book. Well, I can't remember the name of the author, but the book was called "Love Your Life, Not Theirs." And me personally, with my last name, I've always hated that saying "Keep Up with the Joneses." Because I'm like,
Joneses is broke.
I'm broke. I'm broke.
Yeah.
I ain't y'all. I mean, for real, like y'all try to keep up with the Joneses. Like, why? Like, trust me. But like you said, and everybody's journey is different. And I think that until we get to the point where we realize that and work on ourselves, like being fully transparent. Like I said, we've been married. It'd be 20 years in May, and we're going the same direction, but sometimes I'm on this path and I'm on this path, and it's like, you crisscross and you try to get it together, but it's like the healing process is finding that person who you're supposed to trust and be able to be open and honest with. And like I told my wife before, like, listen, I'm gonna sit back, and I might not sit there for a few minutes, and you go sit there and it's gonna like I'm crazy, but I'm processing how to express what I'm feeling right now, and until you can find that person that you can trust, like I said, spouses, loved ones, that friend, until you can find a person that can, sit with you, like, go ahead and get it out. I'll wait here until you're ready. You can't even think about trying to heal. You can't rush it.
And it may not be, once again, family or friends. Mental health therapists is out there. They are out there to help you heal. They've had the training. They've done the many of schools. So it is going to someone, because I would have never been able to heal unless I had stipulation on who they were. Need to be a Black woman who's been through what I've been through. Someone I'll never see again. So I was in college. So I'm like, give me somebody who I will never see again. And they have to be Black. And it was one Black intern therapist that was there. And I mean, she showed me a video from when I very first came in on my last day of leaving. And I was like, I walked around looking like this and nobody knew.
I wanted to add to that right there. Okay, with the Black woman, sometimes it's kind of hard to find those given the demographic you're in. And sometimes it's like you really, 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 really need help now. So it's like I'll just take anything. I don't care what you are, blue, green, yellow, whatever. As long as you're soul and body, I'll take it. It's like sometimes it's out of desperation, but that's the best method, but sometimes it's just not that easy.
But with COVID, it's easier because now virtually.
Right, with COVID.
So before you couldn't see people virtually. So now, if you have a list of what you want in a therapist,
check all the boxes.
You can go find that. You don't have to settle anymore. Before we had to go sit in your office and you want me to lay on the couch. I'm not doing that. I want to be sometimes in my comfort of my own home. You on Zoom. I can turn off the camera, cry real quick. You can't see my ugly cry. All that stuff. That can happen now. So you don't have to settle.
Ain't no more excuses. And I think to that point, to the point you just made, we got to start somewhere. And right now, they've removed pretty much any excuse we have. Because guess what? You can do your therapy in the privacy of your own home.
You can be in your car.
In the
driving.
car and
Hey, I can pull up and listen, Doc. I got a problem.
I had a client I was texting back and forth for an hour. That was a therapy session. Like, make it happen. Make it happen, Gavin. You said you're right. No excuses.
And there's hotlines out there, like there's mental health hotlines. If you feel yourself in the middle of the night that you want to kill yourself and you can't tell your family, you can't tell your husband, he laying right next to you, there is people that you can call right then and there. You don't have to keep going through by yourself. You don't have to deal with those.
In fact, the government just made it a 3-digit
Yeah,
number.
988.
Please call. Like, there's no reason for us to have to commit suicide. Somebody just committed suicide the other day. We don't have to do that anymore. We can talk. We can trust a person that you never have to see again. You won't know this person on the other line. They may be over in Nevada. They may be in a whole other country. Please get help.
And it's crazy because the reality is more of us are walking around with hurts and pains and we wouldn't even know. Like,
and they be so fly. Be so fly.
Yeah, we so more commonalities than differences, and we don't even know because we walking around in our own little bubble thinking we the only ones going through this. No, everybody in this room going through some shit.
Stressed out.
And I think, we keep asking that question going back, how do you heal? I think the first step to healing is deciding I need to heal and get past this.
And learning kind of like your signs, because our body definitely keeps score. And like you were saying, like
I
for
like
like
that.
2
That's a
weeks, I
great
could barely move my neck, and it's coming back, and I'm like, okay, Lord, I know I got to do something, but it's like I call it like riding a wave with emotions, because it's like we're slowly kind of like inching up in there, then we're at the peak, and then poof, then we kind of go back down. Like as we see us kind of building up, we got to do something before we get up there. Now we falling off the cliff or whatever that extreme.
Mind keep the body keeps
body
score.
keeps
And it's a book called that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it plays out in this headache is coming from somewhere,
Right.
right? Like we ain't taking care of our bodies. It feeds into what we putting into our body and the images we see, the music. Like you said, when I get down and I turn on music, but then this music is just playing the same old crap that's in my head. Like that's not really helping.
Right.
But all those things is like really contributing to the choices that we make. And if we connect the dots, then we can make better choices.
Right. Go
And slow that
piggyback off
process
what
down
you
a little
said.
bit.
You know, when you're at the top, it's hard to, you know, take those steps to keep yourself from when you're going down, because when you're high up there,
You're not rational.
Yeah,
So
you
it's like
don't
when I got
wanna
kids
deal
raging
with
and
it.
hitting
You're just
walls,
like,
ain't
you're
nothing
on
I
top
can
of the
say
world.
because they
You
not
don't
listening.
You think you're
They can't take it.
untouchable. You
Right.
don't see what's in front of you. But realistically, in a perfect world, that's what you're supposed to do. But we probably wouldn't do that.
And see, I know we don't want to, I'm looking at the time. I want to make sure I respect everybody's time on that. I'm looking at the pictures that I had from the questions, and two things I want to bring up and ask: how can I create spaces for me to be heard? And I think hearing is one part of the healing process. And I think that this was a great opportunity to actually open up and present the ideas. But the question they asked for the closing thoughts, which is really heavy. It says, after this workshop, what will you do to continue this conversation about mental health?
Well, you got to be there for each other. Like everybody in here pretty much said that, you know, they're going through something. And just being there for each other in this room. And then that branches off to other people around you. Ask them, hey, you good today? Sometimes that simple thing, you good today? No, are you really good? I don't want to hear that faking. You real good today. And just starting there with ourselves, asking ourselves, man, you good today?
I'm sorry.
I know these people's in the room with me, and they said they weren't. They could be there for me. So who do I call?
All right. I say just break out and this is speaking to myself right here, break out your comfort zone, listen to everybody's story that you heard, utilize it, and maybe relate it to your own, or maybe, you know, open up about yourself. And this is me speaking to myself right now.
One thing that I started doing with my wife, I haven't done it consistently. I've thinking about this conversation, need to get back to it. But sometimes, like when she's talking, I'll ask, and I think it's to your point. Am I asking? Am I listening to respond?
Yes.
Or am I listening just so you can vent, right? Because that one changes maybe how you're sharing, but it's also changing how I'm receiving and what I need to do with it. So if I'm listening because you need some advice or you need some support and you looking for me to give you something, I'm listening differently. If you're listening just to vent, that's cool too. I got you, right? Like I got you. And I think just being important and just letting each other know, like, hey, saying, hey, man, I just really need to rap. I just need to get something off my chest. Like just being there and just knowing, okay, bro, I got you. Like, what's good? And just creating that opportunity to vent. Even if he don't say nothing back, I know that I got a listening ear and I have an opportunity to get off my chest, and that's huge. That goes a long way.
But starting that conversation with, I need you to just listen. Because you know, we'll be like, hey, I need to talk. If you say I want to talk, that's a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
But I need you to listen. Just listen.
Yeah.
You don't have, please don't say nothing. Just listen.
And see, I'm good for saying, like, you got 5 minutes so I can vent. You got 5 minutes because I gotta get like, especially with like, for me, one of the biggest stressors is work. And like my coworkers understand the stuff we're dealing with too. It's like, can I get 5? Because if I don't get it all, it's like I'm gonna lose it on somebody. So
I know for me, my biggest thing is, you know, that I kind of give to other people as a reminder, you got to kind of meet people where they are. And I know for me, my friends are like, don't therapy me and this and that. But it's like, I'm rooted and I'm a certain kind of way. So it's like you said, do you want me to just listen or do you want advice? So just kind of meeting people where they are. And then also, for me, just continuing to be vulnerable. Because for some reason, people kind of put me a certain way and what they think And I guess it's because of how I present.
Mhm.
So just being more vulnerable, like, yeah, I'm dealing with this and that, and it's not easy, and we're gonna be okay, stuff like that.
I had a friend recently, probably a couple weeks ago, and it's like, don't therapy me. Don't use your therapy on me. I said, why? Because you need some?
That's what
We're going to come back to that, bro.
That's what I was gonna say.
Okay. I might have struck something there with you, but I think that's like really important. Like, don't run from it. It can be really helpful. We always told us black people don't use therapy, blah, blah, blah. But we need that in our community. We need that healing. We need that venting. We need that professional help just to say, look, I've been through a lot, and I need somebody to just help me work through it. It's super important.
Yeah, I disagree with you. Just reaching out to say, hey, I need you. I like the way you put it too, not talk, but just listen. I just need you to listen for me.
And I guess another thing too, like, we need to surround ourselves with people that are listening when we're not talking. So like when I start moving different, it ain't always about you. So like, try to figure out what's going on with me. And that's a different process for somebody else and then even for ourselves, because sometimes we just going through the motion and doing all of this stuff. So I got this headache and I don't even know why, because it's been 15 things. So yeah, so slowing down the process, and that'll help with emotional regulation too. But slowing down the process where you can kind of think and be logical and not act on impulse, and then you having to run it back all the time, like, because that gets old and it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
So going back to that question, what are we gonna do over these next few weeks to heal?
We're gonna keep using our tribe that we built today.
But that question,
Self-care is a must.
Yeah.
If you don't do nothing for yourself, you better start doing something for yourself. Simple as that.
and forgive.
Forgive.
Understanding and opening up.
And I'll say being honest with yourself too. Like learning how to being real about who you really are. So
Sean, what you gonna do?
Well, for me, the thing that I would say would be you got to start somewhere. You have to take a first step. Like me personally, I took a step. I got over my, oh man, I'll be cool, I'm gonna be cool, I'm gonna be good, be all manly and stuff. I got over it, I had to get over that hump and go see a therapist. My wife had been begging me for a while, that. She had been begging me to go see a therapist for a long time. It was me holding me back at that point. So taking that first step to go do that and go research, it, I was like, I was kind of like you. I want somebody that I'm never going to see ever outside of this room. So taking that first step, and being consistent with that. So, for me, I think it's been a little bit over a year now that I've been going to therapy, and so it's been helpful with stuff that I've dealt with this year. So doing that, and I mean, one thing that I felt that I've always been good at was listening, but being vulnerable to tell people, talk to like my friends and my frat brother, my wife, being able to tell them, to speak with them, and tell them what's going on with me. I wasn't good at that. Partly why I got a therapist, but that additional support, or utilizing that support, is, I think, will even help further. So.
Yep, it's a part of the process.
And that's the thing about it, it is a process. So, but look, we're gonna wrap up at this point. I want to thank you all for coming out. Thank you for being open and honest. On the chapter's Facebook page, we are going to definitely share out the video that we watched this afternoon. We're going to share out information for NAMI also. Again, this is Cedric with Alpha Alpha Omega Alumni Chapter of Iota Theta Fraternity. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for coming out. Before you leave, we do have gift bags in the back, which please take one. It has a journal and a scented candle by Indy Urban Homestead, which is one of our fraternity brothers' wives' business. So y'all smell the candles, y'all trade them around, flip them around, because it's like 10 different fragrances. So, but that's it again. Thank you all for coming out. We appreciate it. So.